Just checking that last time. Okay. All right. I'm not going to blabber too much. I was already doing enough of that earlier. As long as you can still hear me. No worries. I think it's just the Wi-Fi in this building to BH. Awesome. All right. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for relocating twice with us. We were in the Rotama, then we were in the Bear Room, and now we're here in the business building. Thanks to several officers for getting us in here, and thanks for y'all for still coming. Today, we're going to go over how to build a personal website from start to finish, and that includes the basics of some HTML and CSS. That includes GitHub with version control, thanks to Alex from the last few weeks, and then how to deploy to GitHub Pages, maybe using a custom domain. I'll show an overview here in a second too. But first, real quick, some announcements. This is where you'll sign up to become a member. Don't forget, becoming a member is free if you haven't already. I'm assuming a lot of people already have. We are thankful for over 300 people who have signed up already. Super exciting. Glad to have the numbers. Just to reiterate again, attending just 20% of the meetings qualifies you for all of our swag, and that'll come out at the end of the semesters. And that includes things like t-shirts, like when we do giveaways at the end of the semester, we've given away like things like 3D printers and all that kind of stuff in the past. So definitely make sure you're signing up and signing in. Make sure to connect with us. We have a link tree for several things. Discord's our benefactor for this, so like make sure you're following all that for our events on there. And as you can see here, pretty sure y'all know about most of this at this point. Also, if you're interested in becoming a part of ACM in the future, we have a role called junior officers. We have several of them in here with us this meeting right now. If you're interested in maybe being an officer next year for ACM or getting involved with a team or just like want a small part, right? Just to see kind of what it's like to like put on events and like do the different things that our organization is doing. Definitely come check us out, scan that QR code, like have some list on there, and Janelle and I will meet with you and kind of go over some fundamentals of like what we kind of have to expect, what you're expecting, what you're interested in, all that kind of stuff. Upcoming events this Friday, we have we're going to be at Best Fest selling snow cones. It's $2 a pop. I think that's pretty fair. I like snow cones. We have strawberries, grapes, and coconuts. Not in plural, just the flavor. But yeah, check us out. It's from 4 to 10:30 on Friday. We'll be there pretty much all day. Some other events that are coming up, like usual, ICPC. It's coming up on Saturday, 10 to 1. Sorry, wrong numbers. And you'll just be going over things like data structures, how to get ready for technical interview prep, and all that kind of fun stuff. We also have, following the week with Alex and our Intro to Tech, we replaced it with ACM and CompTIA. That is actually going to be on Wednesday next week. Make sure you note that down. Intro to Tech has been moved from Monday to Wednesday for this week because we're going to collab with CompTIA and go over some intro to capture the flags. I know it says CTF, so come check it out. Find out what being a cybersecurity is like. Also, some ACM-W events is going to happen next week too. Day in the life of a software engineer with HEB. Come see what it's like. Come check it out. We have some examples on our YouTube channel, that too. Also, if you haven't already, coming up in 2 more weeks, we have Code Quantum, very first iteration. Come check it out. 100% virtual. We'll have mentors, we'll have events, we'll have prizes. If you're interested in what the prizes already are, they're on devpost.com under Code Quantum. And they're already put up there. Kind of go check it out, see what you can compete for. Pretty fun. I'll leave that up there just in case. Are you able to get it? Just make sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm waiting. And I don't want to go too quick. And then today, for everybody, come sign in. Make sure you scan this real quick. This will be available at the end of the meeting too. Basically, this gets you signed in. Make sure you're a member first. If you're not already a member, it's not going to count the attendance. I do have an extra sheet just in case for everybody who hasn't become a member, and I'll try to add the points once you become a member. But yeah, I'll give you this one like a minute or two just so everybody can scan the QR code. On a side note, I'm trying to work on a way that y'all can like go and ask for like how many meetings y'all have attended, and so you get like an email back or something. I don't have like a website interface yet, but that's a work in progress. I know that it's just ambiguous that like you're signing in and we're keeping attendance, right? Like you don't know how many events you've been to, right? But work in progress. Make sure I give enough time. But I will go ahead and move on. Again, so let's get started. The overview, kind of what I wanted to talk about is we are making a portfolio today. Basically, it's something that to show off yourself. Basically another location for recruiters to come and find you, not just a resume, not just LinkedIn. I like the kind of stuff because I'm a little bit of a front-end web developer, so I like catering the stuff to myself. So I have that kind of has my personal touch, right? So that's what we're going to kind of get in today. So we have the importance of a portfolio, how to find starting resources for things like HTML and CSS and web development, and we're going to how to edit your code and how to deploy to GitHub Pages. So let's get started. The importance of a portfolio. What is a portfolio? It is a compilation of materials that exemplifies your beliefs, skills, qualifications, education, training, and experiences. It provides insight into your personality and work ethic. I feel like I could elaborate more off of that, but it kind of does a really good job at summarizing all that up. So we'll just keep moving on from there. Why should you have a portfolio though? It allows you to become a more effective interviewee. That means you can talk to your skills, that you can talk to projects, you can talk to people that have already talked about you, all that kind of stuff, right? And then also catering. If you've gone to several resume workshops already, you want to cater to the most relevant experiences. You want to put that information on there for yourself, right? What to include? We have a statement of originality, work philosophy, career goals, resume, and skill areas. So a bunch of this we'll kind of go over, but a statement of originality could be a number of things. It could just be like, hi, I'm Zaquariah Holland. I am a UTSA student. I'm a junior. Don't ramble with us in your statement, but definitely move and just like get to the point, like summarization of like what you're doing, where you want to be, right? That's kind of that idea, right? And then that's kind of leads into your work philosophy is like where you want to be or like what you're already doing. Am I interested in data science? Make sure to like make a mention of that kind of stuff. So career goals also like kind of ties in with a lot of this. I know these kind of tie in together, but you can separate them. There's lots of portfolio examples out there. And like I said, making your own website, making your own portfolio is kind of like the good creative process of this. Is like you create it, hit these bullet points, and then it's yours, right? And then obviously the big thing you'll need to include is your resume and then a mention of all your skills. And I didn't put on here, but your projects. That'll be like what makes you stand out, all the events you attend, that kind of stuff. Here's a couple of examples. We have one here on our left right here. Edward Z. Yang, he goes over it pretty quick. He gives some ways to contact him. He goes through and tells you he's a research engineer at Facebook AI Research. He tells you where he graduated, gives a bunch of links where you can contact him, and then you can kind of see his work philosophy right here. Like you can see like a little interview over himself right there. And then another aspect of portfolios, it can not just be like a quick summarization of yourself with a bunch of links, right? It could also be like your personal blog, right? It could be like different things you've been interested in, or like I really liked studying over X and I wrote about Y, right? So like you do a bunch of different things and you constantly make blogs and then like you learn something new and you're like, I should write this down because maybe I'll forget it or it's something that somebody else stumbles upon, like you become a part of the Google search algorithm and eventually someone down the line is going to find you that solved a problem that you're going to be very thankful for. You'll run across that a lot. Next thing to do, we're going to go into finding resources. Finding resources is going to lead into just different ways how you could learn about web development and web like technologies in general. It'll be different things in courses such as W3 Schools. Hi, welcome in. Take a seat wherever. And there's loads of documentation and there's some really great YouTube channels. I'll have a bunch of that linked after, and then the repo that I'll have on display later will have a bunch of these links in there already. Thank you, Ronnie from RowdyHacks from like 2 years ago. Made really good starting research. She's not in here. I'm just kind of staring off on the blank. Sorry. But thank you for giving off a lot of those resources. There's a bunch already in there, and then I've added today's resources at the top there too. I'll show that repo here later after this presentation. But jumping back to W3 Schools, things like this and Khan Academy and all of that are going to be good resources for where you might start, right? If you haven't already heard of those, definitely recommend checking them out. That's going to be a great, like, a fundamental point of like deciding what HTML is and what CSS is and what JavaScript is and like the different ways that all of this works together, right? Next thing we're going to talk into is how to edit your code. Thanks to Alex from a couple weeks ago, we went over the introduction to IDEs. It's our development environments. And I recommend, it's free for VS Code. There's an extensions, if y'all don't already know, that's called Live Server. That's going to help you out with showing your current development rather than having to like push and display everything and then come back to it, right? I know I'm kind of rambling right now, but you'll kind of see what I'm talking about here in a little bit. And then WebStorm, also underneath the package of JetBrains, already has all that integration. So when I talk about like you want to see your development environment, is not only are we changing code and like trying to run it in the command line, right? Like the compile it or whatever. The other part with web design is making it look pretty, right? Like I'll just say that straight out. And you want to know what's changing. You want to know what it looks like. You know, you want to know what colors and styles and sizes and all that stuff you're changing. So it's really good to have an interactive environment as you change your code that updates as you go, right? But yeah. So let's get into it even more. So what is HTML5? First of all, it's the hypertext markup language, is the code that's used to structure a web page and its contents. Interestingly enough, this goes back several years. There was initially HTML wasn't used for like web design, and it wasn't meant to be like for development, and it was just meant to just say, hey, this is where a paragraph should go or something like that, right? But they've since changed the code. There's been several iterations. We're already in 2021. This started back in the like 60s, 70s, so it's been a while. To get part of what's going on here, what we have is an element, right? And this is what you'll see a lot in a lot of web development, is things broken down. You'll see a bunch of like little bracket tags. They'll have a bunch of different things in the middle, and we call those, I say bracket tags. Those are called tags together when you pair all that together. So we have our opening tag right here. We have our content in the middle, and you can see my cat is very grumpy. And then a closing tag. Now, a thing to make note about tags is that they all start with these open and close brackets, and then the name of the tag inside, and then the closing tag will always have this / right before that name of the tag. So if we wanted to name this like a header 1, so this would be like an H1, and then when we put our content in there, we want to make sure we escape it and put H1 also in there, just for some of the content. We also have things we call attributes. So you can see here, it says class, and then it says editor-note. Classes, and there's a bunch of attributes. So don't let this one just be the only one, but we're just going to introduce you to this one. Classes are things outside that kind of connect you with our CSS. I'll go over CSS here in a second. And it allows you to stylize this. My cat is being very grumpy, right? So right now, if we just put P tag with my cat is very grumpy, it's just going to be some white, it's going to be some black text on a white background. It's going to say my cat is very grumpy. And I think I want to make sure. I have my code pen right here. Cool. I'm going to delete some of this for you. And you can see, as long as it loads, we'll reload it real quick. Sorry, guys. We'll do HTML, and then body, and then P tag, and then my cat is very grumpy. And then P tag. And then because this is already kind of like taken by inference, it's already knowing to close my tags, but you can see now my cat is very grumpy, just in text. I don't actually have a cat here. But as you can see, this is what it would look like without any styling. If you're doing web development for the first time, I think it's good to start with just the HTML too, because CSS adds a whole other level of complexion, and it's really fun, but it's good to like start off on the fundamentals, right? Like putting words, putting checkboxes, putting lists, putting input boxes and stuff like that. Next thing I want to kind of go over is the basic structure. As you already kind of saw, I typed out super quickly a bunch of different tags that allowed me to put my cat is grumpy within a bunch of paragraph stuff, right? But there is a basic structure to HTML. First up here, you'll see exclamation point or bang doc type space HTML. Back then, you used to have to describe what I mentioned earlier, what type of markdown language we needed to use. This is just to make sure every website works properly now. Some cases it's not needed. It's always better safe than sorry to have it up there. When you start getting into like jobs and stuff like that, and you work front-end development, they'll definitely try to move you through a lot really quickly. and you're supposed to make your product work for every situation. And when I say every situation, you're supposed to make your website work on Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Safari, mobile. And then you say mobile, you're like, okay, well, that's kind of easy. But mobile on an iPad, mobile on an iPhone, mobile on a Android, all kinds of stuff. There's lots of variables that you have to take into account for when you think about developing for web technologies, right? Or web development in general. So leaving that doc type of HTML up there is just good practice. Lets every browser and every computational web technology out there know what you're doing at the start of a document. Next thing you can see here, it says HTML. That's another basic tag that you need to put in. You'll basically wrap, and when I use the term wrap, you can see here, here's the start and here's the end, and I've wrapped all this stuff in those two tags. So if you hear me say wrap, that's kind of like a keyword right there. But I use my HTML tag to wrap pretty much everything else within there. Next, we have our head. We can see our head has a couple different tags within it too. But our head is basically the order of loading for HTML or any website that you go onto. If you've gone onto a website and it takes a long time to load pictures or load little animations or load different elements on the screen, that's in part by it trying to reach out and find JavaScript or different libraries and all that kind of stuff that's happening there at the head. So you'll see things like this meta tag up here. This is a pretty basic one. It says char set, which is character set, and it's UTF-8. That's the basic encoding for most people's linguistics of typing and characters and all that stuff. When you use ABC 1 2 3, all that kind of stuff. If you had a different char set in there, it would be different, right? Another thing to note is the title here. This is my fun one. When you put title in here, my test page. If you've ever, obviously, if you've gone onto a website or whatever, you'll see in different tabs, they'll have different names or they'll change or whatever. That's what we're changing with that title. The title just, it's a good place to have a reference to come back to. If they're on a different page, you know what the title of that page is, so you come back to it. So if you're on YouTube, you have Twitch open, you have, whatever else you might have open, study materials, Blackboard, unfortunately. And you know when you're at different tabs, you know which one to go back to, right? So that's kind of like the description of a title page. So at this point, we've closed our head, and then now we've opened our body. Like I said, with HTML, we wrapped everything around here. With body, everything else, right? After we get out of head, everything else is wrapped in our body tag. All of our basic markdown, all of our image sources, all of our paragraphs, all of our JavaScript, all that stuff is marked down within the body tag. And that's, again, just for loading order for the web page. We do head first and then body, and then it's stuff within the body is how the web page loads. So I want to make sure that was a lot. Anybody have any questions? I know it's kind of a bunch of tags, kind of in order. Okay, just making sure. We're going to move on to what is CSS. It's a cascading style sheets. Typically, you can do CSS in line with HTML. Not recommended. It's a lot more complex. I'd rather just have a whole separate sheet and put all my styling in there and make the document pretty from a different file. And the reason why I say from a different file is because let's say you had two web pages, right? So you had web page one, and then someone went to a login page. So now it takes them to another web page, right? You want the styling sheets to be similar across the board. So you want to use one styling sheet, and obviously you can use more. It depends on the complexity of your website, right? That has the same styling, so you don't have to copy paste a lot of content between both. And that's just, best practice. It makes it easier on yourself as a developer. It strains the content and the size of the website, so you're not reloading everything again when you get to a new page and then go back and it reloads it all again. But yeah, that's what a different styling sheet would be typical for. Like I said here, I've already kind of gone over it. It was created to describe how HTML is presented. Again, I'm going to show you here in CodePen here as an example how I can change text color, but that's just to change it from our black text to other content, right? Different sizes, different colors, all that kind of stuff. Can work on multiple pages. I didn't mention this before, but back on our HTML page, sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit. Our HTML is stored with .html pages, and our CS is stored with .css. So when you make new files, typically within your IDE, they're going to be pretty lenient to like let you put the file extension on there. So you'll put like main.css or something like that, right? So, and to break it down a little bit, I have this nifty image here, thanks to W3 Schools, and it's to show our selectors and our declarations. A selector would be something similar, and I can show you an example right here with Copin. Our selector would be our tag, right? I know it doesn't highlight very well, but that I want to select the P tag to change its font color, right? To do that over here, I'm going to go into the CSS file. I'm going to put P, right? And now anything within this brackets that I do will affect every P tag on my website. And to keep going back with that, so next things we have to do is properties. Properties come with values. So there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of properties, and not to overwhelm you, but it's easier just like I'm going to show you an example. We have templates. So I just kind of expose myself personally with templates so I can kind of see everything that's available to me. But one of the basic ones here is color. So color will specifically change the color of font. You don't have to put font color or anything like that. If you want to change the background color, you have to put background dash color. Those are just different things. So here, the person has changed color to blue. And in most coding languages, you have to make sure you have the ending trail so that it knows it's over. So here we have a semicolon, which is pretty common with CSS. There are other types of CSS files known as Sass or Cas or those kind of things, and they allow for some other complex, like neater sorting of CSS files. But we're not going to get into those here. I just wanted to mention them so you're aware of them. Another thing here you can see is font size. We've targeted the font size of this selector right here and changed it to 12 points, or 12 pixels, sorry. There's also a bunch of different sizes you can use. We're just going to use pixels in here. It just makes it a lot easier for myself. You can do a bunch of math. Like if you really wanted to, you could do math with all of this in here, like algorithms, like depending on like the size or like depending on the width and height of the web page, you can put in math and all that stuff to here, which is super cool. But to show you an example of it super quick, we have our P tag selected right here. And now I'm going to ask for what color do we like? Blue? Blue? Okay, so we're going to change the font color to blue, and we're going to close that off. And now it should update. Now our font color is blue. And then I want to change it to a font size. If I knew how to spell, let's do make it really big. We'll do like 35 pixels. And there we go. That's what CSS is for. So super cool. I think it's a very convenient way to edit stuff, make things look pretty. Definitely make sure you check it out yourself so you can kind of get used to how these environments work together a little differently. Yeah, what's up? Yeah. Let's see. And then we'll make that right there. Is that a little better? Okay. Yeah. I know I had to, y'all tell me if y'all can't see it, all right? Sorry. But yeah, that's the different ways to do color and font size. Another thing I wanted to touch base on is with a different tag that I think is super cool, and we're going to use here in a little bit with the template, is let's say I wanted to make this word grumpy go, I don't know, to google.com. I don't really care, right? So I'm going to go and use what we call an A tag. An A tag allows us to link items. A tag, it has several properties. A default property for A tags is what's called as an href. It's just a reference to a link or a reference to something within the files of HTML. So like if I had like a file directory going on in this whole system and I could link it in there, that's what I would do right there. But we're going to go around, we're going to wrap the word grumpy with an A tag, and then we're going to go back to the front end here. And as we talked about earlier, here, let's make this a little bit bigger for y'all. And as we talked about earlier, we can put attributes in here. So that href is an attribute. So we're going to do it. We're going to declare it with href equals and then exclamation points. As you can see down here already, it's already changed to having something underlined. And we're going to go to https google.com. It actually won't load in this browser, but if I shift click it, it'll open up, and now Grumpy opens google.com. So that's just a different way of different ways you can edit text, add new tags, nesting different things, and just combining everything to make it look like it's a lot, right? But it looks super cool. So my very My cat is very grumpy now. Leaves Google.com for some reason, So, yeah. So, does anybody have any questions about CSS? I know CSS is the bit more complex part of HTML. No? Okay. Again, like I said, to reiterate, a lot of these resources and other how-to guides and other introductions to HTML and CSS and JavaScript will be available in the repo that I'll show here in a little bit. But the last thing I wanted to do is how to deploy to GitHub Pages. If you haven't already gone over our version control in GitHub, definitely check out Alex with Intro to Text meeting from last week, right? Last week, yes. And kind of hit based off of there. We'll be kind of blowing through it pretty quickly. I'm just going to use it for the pure fact of showing you how you can push code to there real quick and launch a website. So first thing you'll need to make sure to keep in mind is that the repo has to be public unless you want to pay for GitHub Pro, which is a possibility. GitHub Pro allows you to make private repos or have pages on them. You can use that in cases of like you have something that you have a bunch of secret stuff on your web page, or like you're developing in a different environment and you don't want people to see your code. I don't care if people see my code. It might be sloppy a little bit, but I think it kind of shows character because I kind of show off my GitHub to a lot of people. Like when in my resume, my GitHub's linked. So another thing is that you'll activate pages through the settings, and then I have a domain set up for us here in a minute, and we can attach a custom domain. I think that'll be the most fun part. Besides just using like a raw HTTPS link that leads to your repo. I will let you know that you do have to pay for a domain. I think the cheapest you can find a domain is like $9, but most of them average out about 12. It's not super expensive, and when I say $9 or $12, that's $9 or $12 a year. So you get that domain for a year. So things like us owning ACM-UTSA.org, we paid $12 for it. We own it for a year, and it's set up on auto renewal. It just renews like that. So, but I think that's the fun part about it. Again, here's some resources where I kind of pulled a bunch of my thoughts and ideas for today's workshop. I'll have this shared so everybody can have it. And then I want to put this up again right before we jump off and start showing you some code and how to set up a template. Make sure everybody's signed in. Give it a couple minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Curious about anything yet? What is HTML? Did I not explain enough? Yeah. So the thing is with domains is we're limited by things like .org and .io and .xyz and all that kind of stuff, right? But if I wanted to, I could go out and buy a domain that says Zaquariah's intro to, like workshop.com or something like that. I would never purchase that domain. It's way too long. But you could, right? You can go to some place like, was it domains, Domino's? Yeah. Domains like google.com. You can come in here and let's say, I don't know, shout out something. What would you want to make a website name? Okay, we'll try website. I'm pretty sure all of them will be taken, but we can try it. So you can come in here and you can see that we can buy different items in here. So you can actually buy website.consulting, and it costs a bunch of money, but I don't recommend it, but it's available. You can do a bunch of different things. Domains are pretty fun about a lot of this stuff. Definitely something to check out. You can see how much domains will run for sometimes. It's a bit ridiculous. But like if I go into like, let's say like Zach's, and then search something like that, right? I know nobody's taken Zach's website, unless if they have, it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, somebody bought Zach's website, right? So you can see the basic prices in here. Like Zach's website.com would cost $12 a year. So it's not super expensive. If you're trying to get your name out there, I definitely recommend buying your own personal domain. I have my personal domain is Zaquariah.dev. So I do all my content under there. So that's just an example. But yeah, domains are super fun. I like domains. So I do a lot of front-end development. But everybody ready to edit a template? So now here's code. I am gonna, for the purpose of this workshop, I use WebStorm, which is JetBrains IDE. It already has a bunch of integrations and shows off a bunch of different stuff. So that's why I use it. In here, I have about a dozen to-dos for us to finish today. I think I have enough time, right? We're about 12:30. So about a dozen to-dos. I'll show you our first website, what it comes from. where I got it, and then what we're going to change it into. Well, you'll see what we're going to change it into at the end, right? But let's start off with that. So I have used W3 Schools dark our portfolio template. Janelle and a couple other people say that the guy on here, John Doe, kind of scares them. I don't know. It's just a guy with a cigarette in his mouth. It is very ominous, though. I won't lie. But things like this are free. You know, there's tons of free templates out here if you're looking to play around with stuff. You can definitely check it out. It's an easy way to get a website up for yourself. It's an easy way to like introduce yourself to how classes work, how different tags work together, how people separate style sheets, and all that kind of stuff. So what I've done for the purpose of this already is, we'll go back down to it, is I've already downloaded it. I've already edited a little bit and pushed it to our repo. So that raw change there is already there for you. I will actually show you the demo page. So this is what it looks like right now. So it says, I'm John Doe. He's a photographer and web designer. The big ominous picture is really big for us now because it's on a big screen. And then he says, it's my name down here. And then, you know, things like your work philosophy and your bio and your skills and stuff like that. The only part that doesn't make sense to me is this little bar right here. I don't know how you have a percentage of learned photography. I don't know. So we're going to remove that. But just different things like that. You can kind of see in here. And then another thing I make sure that's pretty important is how to download a resume. We're actually going to abuse the fact on Google Drive. We're going to take the ID of a shared link and then turn it into a download link. So you don't have to like host it anywhere. Some more content we're going to remove. We're going to change some of this. We're going to change all the photos and then change up the links and stuff like that. So, and then remove this contact thing because I don't like that. And with that comment made saying I don't like that is another thing about website development, right? Is it's really preference, right? Well, you might end this and you'll be like, man, Zach, you made like a really ugly website. I know ACM's logo all over it, but I'm sorry for you. Y'all can feel that for me, but I like it. So, but yeah, so website development is kind of like to the creator's taste. Depending on who they're making it for. So like, obviously if I make a website portfolio for myself, I'm trying to show off my personality, right? So right here is our version of it. So we're going to start changing it. We're going to change some tags. We're going to change some pictures and stuff like that. I'm going to show you like images and all that kind of stuff. So let's jump over to the code. I'm going to scroll back to the top. And the first thing I want to do is, like I said in the beginning, when I was telling you about HTML, we're going to change the title. So up here, I'm going to let you know that we're going to make the portfolio based around like ACM as a whole. So it'll be like a portfolio for ACM. So up here, what I'm going to do is change it to ACMs for portfolio. And sometimes I forget to capitalize. So we'll just go over here and put the P. So now with this change here, I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to head back over here. And you can see up here that it now says ACM's portfolio. So I think that's super cool. That's a very important part when people are like switching between things, right? That they see. You can see over here that it says ACM's portfolio, right? Next thing we're going to change is some different content. I do want to describe that in the style sheet, if you download it from the W3 Schools, they do put all of the CSS in line right here. This is a way to link it outside of it, what I've already done. I've linked the style sheet out of the file, just the main HTML file, and put it in a file called main.css. So this main CSS actually contains all of the slight CSS that we'll be using or have already implemented for the website. This goes over different things like our tags, and you can stack them like this. And again, I could talk forever about CSS. I am sorry about that. I can talk forever about CSS. There's so many different things you can do. You can even put plus and additions and all that kind of stuff in here. But for the simplicity of this, just know that we're just targeting elements on the HTML site and doing different things right here. Like for instance, I'm changing the font style of the website. I'm adding some different margins and different things for the website right here. And then this is like a background color. Again, don't let me, if I tangent off, yell at me, please. I'll try to be on myself. But what we want to do first, and I'm going to use an option available to us because of WebStorm, is actually change this class right here. This class is actually provided by W3 schools. So I'm going to change it to blue. So we're going to change our background to blue real quick. So I'm going to change all these black ones to blue. And then just going to go through them all real quick. And now the website's going to look super ugly, but now it's blue. So the reason why the picture isn't blue is because the picture is itself overlaid. So he obviously has a background or black background. So that's obviously his theme was to like blend it in together, right? But our theme is blue, so we're using blue. So now you can see the website's really blue. The gray looks really ugly now. So that's on our agenda too. But we're gonna change these pictures real quick. Oops. Next thing we're gonna do is change the navigation bar avatar. So that's this little picture up here. So when I was talking about pathing and stuff like that for pictures earlier, I kind of glossed over it real quick. But I do have a basic structure of assets and then images and all that kind of stuff set up for us. So we're going to actually go in here, and instead of using a website URL, we're going to just directly target an image I have in there for us. So it's going to be under assets and then images, and then I've called it logo. So we're going to save that real quick. And now we're going to head back, and now you can see it just says ACM-W. So, and maybe I don't like that blue or that black around there. Like I want to keep it blue, leave this like main part of the bar black. So I'm gonna actually go over here and add a class, set it equal to something. Make sure there's space, and I think it's W3, and then I'm gonna put blue there. And it should add a background. Yeah, so there we go. So there's a bunch of classes. Like I said, hopefully this template isn't too overwhelming for you, but there is a lot of documentation for HTML here. I just wanted to kind of show y'all like the quick ways to get something up, right? But to keep moving on, our next thing is to do is I want to mention the ideas of development. I did talk about like sizing and stuff like that, and like making sure your website works on several different pages. Like you might use Google Chrome, but there's people out there that still use Internet Explorer for some reason. And sometimes it's just because that's the compatibility for like the programs that are developed, right? But another idea is also to develop for mobile first. I say to develop for mobile first, and that includes like sizing and stuff like that. I won't really go over that in here, but there's a lot of documentation, a lot of really good videos. But to developing for mobile first allows you to go back into basic web dev and not the other way. It's really hard to develop like for desktop and then go into mobile because just the sizings and stuff like that are super difficult. But I just wanted to make that as like a quick point. Next thing we can do is we're going to change the hero information and the image. And you'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? A hero information? You might know a lot of this as a landing page or the top of like the title screen or something like that. In web dev, the really common term is hero. And that's typically just this main page right here. It's what's going to load like when a user loads to your website, and this is what they're going to see. Like you want, like it's like the hero of the website. Like I don't know where they got the term. It's just what's used. I guess I could have tried to find something, but essentially that's just another term that they use for your landing page. But we are going to change some of the names. So we're going to be like we are, and then obviously we're not John Doe, so we're ACM. And then I don't want to use this tag right here, so I'm gonna delete it. Next I want to do is change the picture right here and put it in as the same logo we were using before. So it's an assets and then images and then logo. Before we jump off and show you the example that I just changed, another attribute within an image tag is to be noted for alt text. Alt text is something that shows up when an image can't load or it has problems loading or something like that. And that's the main case that most able-bodied people see. I actually had an internship over the summer that I got to learn a lot about accessibility. And I had no idea how hard the internet is to navigate with your eyes closed. I doubt you've ever tried it, but it is super hard. If you've ever tried using voice to speech, ever tried using just a keyboard to navigate through every web page you come across, it is extremely difficult. But this is just one of those minor tags that you can help out somebody who's using text to speech of like, I'm not there, I can't see the page, but maybe the picture is like really important to the design or the display of the web page. So I want to make sure it describes that image, you know, as simple or as complex as you want to make it, but typically as simple as you can make it. So I would just be like, you know, I would say ACM's, not J, ACM's logo, right? So they would know at least, you know, hearing, they'd be like, this is a picture of ACM's logo, right? So just another thing to keep in mind, developing, for all groups, not just yourself. It's just super important. A random fact that I'll go off on a tangent, not a tangent, but I found out that lots of banks are getting sued now because, like with ADA compliance of like being compliant for wheelchair access or handicap accessibility or all that kind of stuff, right? Web pages are getting strict down, mainly businesses. So don't worry about your personal website. I'll make that note. But businesses are being sued because obviously you're paying for a service, and if you have a disability, you can't access it. So that was just kind of like my insight. I think it's super cool. I never really thought about it until I started doing it. Just something to keep in the back of your mind when you're developing. Some other stuff, I said add some flavor. So by flavor, I'm just going to change out this text so it's a little bit about ACM. And before I move on, I forgot to show y'all. So currently now it has just a giant ACM UTSA logo. And I just like saying we are ACM. It seems pretty like, I don't know, pretty forceful at that point, right? Like you're just like telling people we are ACM, right? But yeah, so giant logo, no longer, John Doe, the guy with the cigarette. So some of y'all are afraid of him. He's gone now. But yeah, let me add this text right here. I have it, so I'm not gonna actually write out all of this for y'all. I promise. And do this, and then close the p tag off. And then now down here, you can see that it's actually new. It's a new text now, not just the blob of text. What we're going to do now that I realized it, because I keep forgetting about it, we are going to change the color of all of these texts. So what we're going to do is actually get rid of that. And then where is the text color? That's fine. All right, so text gray. I think just changing it to white will probably be our simple solution for today. So we're just going to go text white, and then, oops, sorry about that. I'm going to minimize that, replace that, and then replace all those. And save it, and go back now. And now it's a little bit more readable. And if y'all want me to change it to a different color, I can, but I think white is a little bit more readable. And that's another thing too, to like keep an eye on web development too. Like, do the colors contrast enough so that you can read it on different viewing screens, right? Like the blue, it's a pretty good blue, but the blue on gray wasn't very a good option, right? So we chose white, so now it kind of pops out a little bit more. But yeah, let's keep editing. What I mentioned earlier, I did not like the progress bars. I don't know what they mean. I don't know how you're only 30% done with, photography or something like that. It doesn't make sense. So we're going to keep some of these elements right here. I'm just going to make sure that they stay there. And I'm going to change these with some text. A lot of this, when you're using templates like this, is going to be like you filling in information that better suits you. You figuring out how the document is built so that you can cater it to yourself. Because like I said in the beginning, you want it to represent you, right? Like you want it to be not just like an extension of like, maybe you use LinkedIn already, but you want to add your own creative juice to like adding, colors and fonts and all that kind of stuff. And you want to declare where you want stuff on the page, right? So here you can already see I've gotten rid of that little progress bar. It still made no sense. I'll keep bringing that up. And then now I'm saying our skills in ACM are engaging students in stimulating computer activities, mentoring students for academic and professional success, and advancing the arts, science, engineering, and applications of information and technology. I do read over that really quick, so those are available on our website too already. But yeah. So, and you can comment things out if you really want to. You can also just delete them, whatever's your game. Maybe sometimes, like when I'm developing at first, I comment stuff out so that, like, if it's something maybe I liked in the beginning or I didn't like in the beginning, but now like I've moved on to like a different vision, I can go back and uncomment. That's why templates make it really fun to like edit and stuff like that. So, let me find my next to do. All right, now the next one that I mentioned and the really important part to have on your portfolio is to have a download link. Not only for your resume, but maybe you have something else. In this case, we're obviously ACM doesn't have a resume, but we're going to use our Constitution. I don't know why you'd want to download our Constitution, but you can. It'll be available pretty soon. But yeah, so what we're going to do is abuse the fact that Google Drive allows you to, if you haven't used it already before, but Google Drive allows you to store documents. Preferably, I'd use a PDF in this situation because that's nicer to download, right? But yeah, have a PDF and then share it to the public, and you'll get a custom link in there, right? And I have a guide in there in that resources tab or resources page on the slides that I just mentioned or have earlier. It'll show you a whole guide on this. But essentially, you're going to rip out this ID code. So this is our ID code to our public constitution. So we're actually going to take that and then head all the way down here. And there's some little JavaScript down here that it says download resume, right? So we're going to change this field ID to that ID. Delete it out there, delete the spaces, and delete that. Now we've made a full web address, right? Now it goes to drive.google.com, blah, 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 lots of hashing, right? But yeah, so now it actually should work as long as I can find back where we were at, right? Yeah, so now if we go back here, now we have download resume. So if we click here, give it a second, let's think for a second. But now I just downloaded the Constitution for like the 20th time. But it works, right? So it allows you to not just host it instead of like downloading the file and hosting it on your own website and allowing people to download it that way. It just makes it easier. So like if you would need to change it later, rather than updating your whole website, you can go just update the drive file and it'll make it available right there. So another thing I want to make sure I change is just some content. We can change that all later. Like I said earlier, I don't want a couple of these sections, so we're just going to delete them. And then, so you can see here, I deleted out, like, we obviously don't have like a purchasing plan for ACM, so that's just gone for us. Some fun content I wanted to add here is this stuff, is to change in and use some quotes from our officers and be like, see what officers say about us. Like just different content like this. And obviously you can change it. Ooh, I forgot this text color right here. So we're gonna change these also to white. Obviously you can change it to whatever color you want, but in this case, we're just changing them all to white. Let me make sure. Oh, I need to change the pictures. So we've changed this here. I've already uploaded some pictures into the assets folder, and it's gonna be images and then Chris. And then we have assets, images, and then Alex. There we go. So as you can see here, I quickly changed with some images, and thankfully to this template, it already like sizes my images down. They're already pretty small, so it kind of worked out. So you can see Chris and Alex have made some comments about what they like in ACM, right? So obviously Alex really likes Intro to Text series. He's our host for it. Definitely check it out. And the next thing, I don't really want to do it too much. I already know we're kind of pushing some time, but I can just change. I have uploaded all the links for some new photos. The last thing I wanted to make sure we changed was this mail thing down here. I think it's super imperative, if it's not already on your resume, but you can make it available on your website, is to go down here to the mail section. And as I showed earlier with the Grumpy Cat, right, I can add in an A tag. So we're going to add that in here and put it off here and add an href in here. Now there's some syntax for mailing. I think it's super cool. So if you wanted it to mail directly to you, or if you wanted a user to click on that link once it become activated, right, it automatically take them to whatever like email they use, right? So in my case, it's Outlook, so I'm not going to activate it because I don't like Outlook. But we're going to do a mail to, and then that's just all together, and then colons right there, right? And then you'll put your email. So we'll do acmutsa.org. And then we'll do team, and then ACM UTSA. So now when I save this here, you can see that it's changed over here. If we hover over it, I believe it'll show us too. Yeah, so you can see down here at the bottom right here, it says mail to team at acmutsa.org. And that actually, when you click on it, it'll take you to that website. Or your default mail system that you can use, and it'll just take you there, automatically put that in the to field, and that'll be where you send mail. I do want to conclude that was kind of like the last point in here. There's a bunch of different stuff that I left to dos in here. I'll finish this up and publish it. But the last thing I wanted to make sure we do is push to GitHub real quick. So I'm sorry I'm taking a little bit. We're going to commit to main real quick, and then push origin. And then we're going to actually head over to GitHub. So let's head over to, where is it? Right here. So we're going to hit settings real quick. Not the exact way I want the website to be, but it's good enough so I can show you all the example right here. And you're going to go over to settings in your repo here, and you're going to go head down to Pages. Again, make sure your repo is public unless you want to pay that like $4 a month or whatever it is, right? And then all you have to do to turn it on is click here, click main, and then click save. Now we're gonna give it a little second. It'll turn green here a little bit if I refresh in here a little bit. But when I click in here, click, keep refreshing. Like I said, it takes a second sometimes, especially when like you first start it up. All right, there we went green. Now we go over here. Now it's hosted. Y'all can all actually right now, I'm not making you, but you can go to this website right here, utsa-acm.github.io, and it's live for you. You can share that link around. It'll be a website that I edited. It'll be this repo's website, and I think that's kind of cool. Essentially, the pathing for it is your GitHub name and then the repo name right there at the very end. So if that's what you're looking for in the future, that's the naming scheme for most of this GitHub stuff. Another cool thing, like I had mentioned, is custom domains, right? So there's a field down here for custom domains. And what we're going to do in here is put in portfolio.acm-W.org, and we're going to click save. Now, again, you have to let it, cite for a little bit. So once it's ready to go, keep refreshing. Yeah, what's up? So W3 Schools does have a good ADA compliance guide on there. If you look up just ADA compliance, most of that will come up. It's called WCAG. It's the Web Accessibility Guidelines. It sounds really funny. I don't know why people say it out loud, but that's just that kind of idea too. That's where I found all my information when I was researching for accessibility over the summer. So, but as you can see here now, I put in that custom domain, and now it's hosted at portfolio.acm-W.org. So if you even go on your phone, if you go on your like desktop or whatever, and you go to that link right now, you will see this website. So that's just kind of insight on like quickly deploying to GitHub Pages. Just make sure, check out the templates. I'm here for questions. I'm always here on Discord. I'm here I'll stay after a little bit to answer questions too. Yeah. Oh, to check like input validation and stuff like that. A lot of that will be more developed in JavaScript. JavaScript will be more of when you're getting into form validations or checking what's available in the field. You can use regex and all that stuff in JavaScript. So hopefully that answers your question. I didn't dive too much into JavaScript this workshop, but that's essentially will be the way that you could check for yourself. There's a lot of libraries out there for that already too. So I hadn't thought about it at first. We definitely have an opportunity for that kind of thing. Definitely keep posted on our Discord. So good ideas. Any questions? Curious. I know I kind of rushed at that last couple minutes pretty quick, but if you need to see something again, this video should be up on YouTube later and on Twitch. But I want to lead it off and say thanks for coming, guys. I know I ran it up to the last couple minutes, but yeah, thank you.